Alright, so, sorry this took me so long, but today we have the Warhammer Dragons in Monster Hunter. Now, I'm actually going to use sort of a somewhat composite spectrum for this one, because we are going to use a specific group of dragons that have this, I guess you could say, commonicity, if you will. And this will be the sort of Carmine-like dragons. So we'll be using the Fire Dragon, the Forest Dragon, the Sun Dragon, and the Star Dragon, as well as the dragons that used to be on Lustria, because apparently they've been the same. So we'll kind of composite them into like one dragon for Warhammer. Basically all the ones you see right here, and so we'll be throwing them into Monster Hunter. I'm not using the Frost Dragons and the Black Dragons because they seem to be vastly different from the other ones. So without further ado, please comment down below, like and subscribe and share with your friends, and well, let's begin. Now we know that these dragons, or the dragons in general, will definitely be able to breathe some sort of projectile, if you will, whether it be this hot white energy that comes from their mouth, or some type of acid, electricity, or fire as usual. Now this is pretty important. Now if you guys really want a good video about how strong the dragons are, or about how strong Warhammer creatures are, go ahead and check out my Honest True Devil Joe versus Carnosaur video, where I pretty much give a solid scale for both sides. Now, with the fact that we are kind of putting them from Lustria as well, and the fact that they're commonly found in like forest-like areas along with some of the high elven lords, yeah, I think these dragons would definitely exist in the more forest-like environments of Monster Hunter. And I actually think they would thrive here, considering the fact that the ones on Lustria also thrived in the jungle until the Carnosaur said, yeah, we about to end this species' whole career. Now, believe it or not, with these dragons also being highly intelligent and magical beings as well, this means that they have a set advantage, considering the fact that I would definitely say they're a lot smarter than the Elder Dragons. Yeah, Elder Dragons are pretty intelligent. They're actually so intelligent that you're actually not allowed to capture them. This is the reason why our traps don't work, simply because the Elder Dragons are just super intelligent. But let's actually talk about how or what these guys would actually eat in their environment. And believe it or not, considering the fact that on Lustria, we do know they had a diet of some of the more local fauna of the area and some of the smaller predators, I think it would definitely say that the bird wyverns, or the more raptorial bird wyverns, will be eaten. Then you also have the standard herbivores like Aptonoth, Slagtoth, and Kestodon as well. They would all be eaten. You could easily go for fish in some of the coastal areas, congas as well, Quechua. Okay, those guys would be eaten as well. Basarios, I definitely think he would be eaten as well, considering the fact that they are more. Viserys is more of a bug eater and everything. And do I think the dragons may even like try to eat Basarios? No, I really don't think so. This because Basarios just doesn't look like it's a very appetizing creature. I mean, it's just like a big thing of rock that has flesh and meat inside of it. So it may just not look appetizing until somebody really tries it. Now, as for some of the bigger prey, we do have the likes of Duramboros, Bonboro, and well, I guess I could definitely say Baceras, or any of the local Gravioses in the forest-like region, and the black Gravios as well. Keep in mind, with some of these dominant life forms, they are going to be difficult to take down, as again, they are known to deter even Devil Joes. And to those that, have been to, I guess you could say, the Forbidden Islands or whatever, Diaboloses actually will inhabit some of the forest-like areas. Maybe some of the desert forests, but again, considering they are pretty much connected land masses, Diablos would also find itself on the menu despite it being an apex. However, peak males and black females would also be very difficult. Baroth as well, especially in those kind of environments, considering the fact that it doesn't take much for them to kind of cross over into those regions, albeit they were probably furthermore, I guess you could say, the more desert-like pool areas, considering the fact that they really don't like to share the riverways too much. And if they ever get, too close, I can definitely see Nibblesnarf being there. As for the volcanic regions, I can definitely see the fire dragons likely gravitating towards those areas because they honestly should be fine. So this means they would actually prey upon things like Ash Ketchawatcha. Any of the Garugas as well will find themselves on the menu. Let's see who else is there. Oh, Oregon as well, considering he is a prey animal, and Brachydios. For the same reason I said in my Carnosaur video, the fact that Brachydios actually do try to bond with blast molds and some of them are just not durable enough will provide a bountiful feast for any of the dragons in the area. So, believe it or not, the dragons really don't have an issue preying upon some of the other animals or some of the other creatures of Monster Hunter as well, considering they would just be able to manhandle and just one-shot them with ease. And some of the other predators as well, like the local raptorial bird wyverns that get clowned on constantly, and some of the smaller predators like possibly Malfestio, Yon Garuga, if I said them earlier, maybe even some of the leviathans like Mizutsune could even get preyed upon, Rachna-Kadachi, Nersilla, Gypsaros, and if they ever find their way into wilds, then Chemetries and Deshagma would likely find themselves on the menu. So it's not a very bad thing altogether, as these dragons would just dominate their own local systems and likely even bully some of their competition off. Now, speaking of competition, considering these guys would definitely be in the Elder Dragon level class, this means most of their competition would definitely be Elder Dragon level monsters, meaning the likes of Bazelgeuse, Rajang, and Devil Joe. However, let's actually talk about the most common, threats and competition, right? Or common, competition and rivals, I should say. Now, believe it or not, Bazelgeuse is not going to be the most common. I could definitely see the dragons likely having to deal with him every now and then, but he would be more like a pest than anything. Another one I don't see them interacting with is Espinas. You might say, whoa, whoa, whoa. You mean the same guy that ran a fade with Kushal Daora? Yes, but here's the thing, right? Kushal Daora is a bit of a jerk, if you will. The fact that Espinas is mainly sleeping most of the time, and the fact that Kushal Daora actually utilizes its wind abilities to kind of distort the environment a little, this does trigger Espinas's temper and causes it to become more active. This means that, considering the dragons don't have any major elemental or environmental destructive like powers, this means that Espinas honestly would probably sleep peacefully and likely only wake up if these dragons try to provoke it and try to think it's prey, which they may get a little humbled, at least some of them will. Now, let's actually talk about one of the few creatures I think they can hold a grudge against. Since we are giving them a composite memory base here, and they would likely remember the Carnosaurs drove them to extinction because they are highly intelligent. I feel bad for Anjanath. Yeah, Anjanath is a victim. He's not even here for competition. He's going to be a victim. Like, do you understand? He can look similar to a Carnosaur with its sail down and just its posterior. I think that they may have a little bit of PTSD, and they may actually start just straight up wiping out Anjanath populations like crazy. So that means that Guild would likely have to step in. But, hear me out. Anjanath would likely move and become more common in desert regions. That would actually be a very interesting thing, because imagine Anjanath not being able to really withstand this literal kind of bullying from such a high tier species that they move into the desert. This does mean that a niche can open up, and Devil Joe may actually be more common in the forest areas than just really around the New World, or just around, everywhere. They could actually take over Anjanath's place. So I guess it's kind of RIP Toby Kadachi and Great Draggers. But again, Devil Joe would definitely view these dragons as prey. And considering the sheer fact that, yeah, they still have the power to combat everyone's favorite green pickle, I don't see a reason why that it just wouldn't happen. It would be just another turf war. However, with the fact that they are more intelligent than the Elder Dragons, it's very possible that when they know that Devil Joe is in the area, they'll likely hunt and take their prey to the highest altitudes possible so that Devil Joe just doesn't, find or try to steal their kill. Now, let's talk about one of the few Elder Dragons that I think is going to be a little pain in their rear. And this is because the Warhammer Dragons are a lot more peaceful and not really problematic. And this means someone like Kushal Daora, who is problematic, is going to literally get himself into another rivalry. I could definitely see it being where Kushal Daora does have the versatility advantage over a Warhammer Dragon. But again, the Warhammer Dragons would basically be like a Nergigante to them. It really just wouldn't end well for Kushal Daora. He's not one. Okay, he is one of the weaker Elder Dragons, but he's not that weak at all. It'll definitely be a good fight. Next off is Chameleos, and I don't really see these guys interacting too much, especially when it comes to food. I don't think Chameleos eats too much other than bugs. I could definitely see it going after a Nerscylla and a Celtis Queen, as well as any other giant bugs like Karagna Kadachi and stuff like that, and any, giant bug-like creature. But I don't think he's going to be a common threat to the Warhammer Dragons. And Black Veil Val Hazak is kind of a no and a yes at the same time. Knowing the fact that I don't think Black Veil Val Hazak would really be competing with, for competition. Or, for food and territory and stuff. Maybe for territory, yeah. But, again, he would actually be very discouraging considering the fact that he literally smells like rotten flesh. I don't know how the hunters or how the guild be turning that into armor, but listen. Y'all have my sympathy for having to work with that kind of material and still getting paid for it. Yeah, y'all earn y'all money. I don't care what y'all say. So, believe it or not, the dragons actually just have a better time here. Like, the Carnosaurs drove them to the extinction drove their dragons to extinction because they were stronger, they were faster, and they were more, I would probably say, more resistant to their fire. However, there is a threat that we do have to cover, that being Nergigante. Nergigante, much like Devil Joe, is going to be a predator, considering they look like an Elder Dragon, act similar to Elder Dragons, but it's very clear they have more intelligence, so they must be tasting like an Elder Dragon. So Nergigante is going to be eating good once again. He's stronger, he's more durable, and he's definitely more intelligent. So Nergigante definitely would eat these dragons. Now, let's talk about the guild, and this is where we honestly could wrap up the video, but let's actually keep this very quick. So the guild themselves are actually pretty interesting, considering the fact that the dragons here can actually be tamed and used in, well, no pun intended, warfare. So I'm not sure if they actually need high levels of elven magic for it. I'd probably do need to reread it, or if they're able to pull a How to Train Your Dragon and just bond with them, right? So what we have here is a case where they may view the guild as allies. Considering they actually do interact with elves very often, it's very possible the white variants could have a century-long history with these kind of dragons. And so, having that kind of history, this means the dragons would actually be great protectors of many of the cities and citadels as well. I could definitely see them likely participating in some of the bigger events, like the taking down of Dalmador or the Dalmador mating season, where it's just simply too destructive to get some snoo. It ain't fair, man. It ain't fair, man. You trying to get some, trying to impress a mate, but the guild's like, nah, buddy, we gotta block you. We gotta block you real quick. I'm sorry about that. But it's very possible they would actually be very important in the Lao Shang Lung raids or in any of the castle raids. So things like Gog Mazios, Jen Garan and stuff like that, Lao Shang Lung, Ashen Lao Shang Lung. Yeah, they would be great in that. And they would actually be successful, considering the fact that they can honestly use their fire breath and their fire power to repel the likes of Lao Shang Lung repeatedly. And, well, in all honesty, I think they can even go for a black dragon raid. Now, this is going to have to be combined with a hunter as well. So this means that Fatalis, Crimson Fatalis, Sapphire Jiva, Elatrion, Dire Morales, Dishifiora, Mephistian, and etc. would all have to get jumped. And I do mean jumped. But overall, considering how the dragons are in One Hammer and how they honestly would interact with the environment, I actually do think they would not only survive here, but they would thrive. Probably a lot more than some of the other species I've done in Monster Hunter when it comes to just giving them a stable population. But that's going to be all for today, guys. Please comment down below, like and subscribe and share with your friends. This is Legendary Grimlock, and I hope you guys have a blessed day.